Genesis chapter number 26, looks like. And there was a famine in the land besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham, and Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. Sound familiar? Remember famine in Abraham's day? He left the land that he was supposed to stay in and went down into Egypt. Got down there and lied about Sarah being his wife. You know, we see all that, and God still blessed him. He ended up coming back up with more than he went down there with. But watch the similarities to what's going on with Isaac here. And this, it says Abimelech. I think probably a lot of these old kingdoms, they had like a family dynasty name. You know, there was more than one Ramses in Egypt. There was more than one Nebuchadnezzar. Probably this is the Abimelech from Abraham's day, probably like his son or his grandson or something. Anyway, it says, and the Lord appeared unto him and said, go not down into Egypt. So he forbids Isaac from going into Egypt. He says, dwell in the land which I shall tell you of. Sojourn in this land, and I will bless thee, and will bless you. And for unto you and unto your seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham your father. And I will make your seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and I will give unto your seed all these countries, and in your seed shall all nations of the earth be blessed. Again, that's what he promised Abraham. He's just confirming it with Isaac. You always hear that. The promise is made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Did you get that? Abraham kept laws? I didn't think the law was until Moses will. God writes some stuff on your heart, doesn't he? He says, and Isaac dwelt in Gerar, and the men of the place asked him of his wife. Here we go. This is going to be familiar to you. As he said, she is my sister. Now, where'd he get that from? Like father, like son. And you know, Abraham actually had a legitimate excuse. Sarah was his half-sister. I don't know where Isaac come up with this. He's just flat out lying. He says, he feared to say, she's my wife, lest he said, the men of the place would kill me for Rebekah, because she was fair to look upon. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out a window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah, his wife. He was sporting. I guess that means a little PDA, public display of affection, and he knew, didn't he? Abimelech called Isaac and said, behold, of a surety she is your wife. How said you, she's my sister? And Isaac said unto him, because I said, lest I die for her. And Abimelech said, what is this that you've done to us? One of the people might lightly have lain with your wife, and should have brought guiltiness upon us. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, he that touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Hard to say, isn't it? Then Isaac sold in the land, and received in the same year 100-fold. So that God puts this stuff in here for a reason. If he's got you know, Isaac just lied about his sister, but here he sows and receives 100-fold. He still gets blessed. Think about that. That's in here to show us when you've got a call on your life and you're scared to step out, you're afraid of making a mistake. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of making an Ishmael along the way. If you hold strong and stand fast in what God's promised, he will perform that which he promised, because he's not slack concerning his promises. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be faithful and willing and obedient to what he calls us to do. Perfect example. It says, and the man waxed great, and went forward, and grew until he became very great. For he had possession of flocks, possession of herds, a great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. For all the wells which his father's servants had digged in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them up, and filled them with earth. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, go from us, for you are much mightier than we. And Isaac departed thence, and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar, and dwelt there. And Isaac digged again the wells of water, which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley, and found there a well of springing water. And the herdmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdmen, saying, the water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. And they digged another well, and strove for that also, and he called the name of it Sitnah. And he removed from thence and digged another well, and for that they strove not. So he finally finds a place, doesn't he? He says, and he called the name of it Rehoboth. And he said, for now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. And he went up from thence to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared unto him the same night. God shows himself to Isaac. See that a lot in the old Bible, don't you? He says, I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your seed for your servant Abraham's sake, for my servant Abraham's sake. And he builded an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord. You always see that too. They build the altar, they call upon the name of the Lord. He pitched his tent there, and there Isaac's servants digged a well. And Isaac likes to dig wells, apparently. Big thing, wells. You had to have water to survive, didn't you? Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar, and Ahuzzath, one of his friends, and Phicol, the chief captain of his army. And Isaac said unto them, wherefore come you to me, seeing you hate me, and have sent me away from you? And they said, we saw certainly that the Lord was with you, and we said, let there be now an oath between us and you, and let us make a covenant with you. Same thing they did with Abraham. They saw that he was greater. They didn't want him, turning on them, so they wanted to make that oath, didn't they? Same thing here with Isaac. He says, make a covenant with us that you will do us no hurt, as we have not touched you. And as we have done unto you nothing but good, and have sent you away in peace, you are now the blessed of the Lord. And he made them a feast, and they did eat and drink. And they rose up betimes in the morning, and sware one to another, and Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. And it came to pass the same day that Isaac's servants came and told him concerning the well which they had digged, and said, we have found water. Glory. And he called it Sheba, therefore the name of the city is Beersheba unto this day. And this ends in a weird way. It just starts one last little bit about Esau here. Remember Esau, firstborn. It says, Esau was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Bashemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, which were a grief of mind unto Isaac and to Rebekah. Why? Because they were Hittites, those pagan people that lived in the land. You'll see in the book of Leviticus, they were performing all manner of abomination. And he don't just take one of them, he takes two. And you'll learn that about Esau. He's don't seem to get anything right, till later in his life. But anyway, that's it for 26. Show up tomorrow and we'll try it again. God bless you.